Lipscomb made a pretty significant investment over the summer to have every faculty and every student have access to a technology called Boodlebox that gives you access to 9 different AI tools.
Wow.
So every single person on campus has had training on this. Faculty are using it. I mean, people are writing bots to help students study for class. Students are able to use it for their projects. So some people are coming up with some really creative ways to use it for class, but then on projects that they're working on for class that mimic real-world things as well.
Welcome back to MasterMined. I'm Mark Scrivner, host of the show, and I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Lee Pepper.
Good morning, Mark.
Lee's one of the most sought-after consultants in the behavioral health space, as well as a new author of Never Outmatched, a new marketing book in the space. So we're excited to have with us a couple doctors in the show today, and I'm going to let Lee make the introduction, but it's great to... It's going to be a great show. I'm super excited about it. Lee, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. I'm sure Allison and Bart are going, okay, well, hold on now. Hope you're not going to ask for medical advice today, right?
Not that kind of doctor.
Not helpful.
That's right.
Doctor.
Yeah. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Allison Duke, the Dean of the Lipscomb Business School. Mm-hmm. And then Bart Liddle, the Associate Dean, and also your Associate Professor in Business Management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I'm no longer Associate Dean, but Associate Professor, absolutely.
Okay, super. Well,
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be another episode. Did something happen? We're really going to dig in today, Bart.
Yes.
Well, and I had the pleasure recently, Mark, of doing a presentation to their Master's in Healthcare Administration a couple weeks ago, and it's where I got to meet Bart in person, and I was so honored to be there and just to see the campus, and also just to see the quality of the students and the curriculum you guys have put together. And I wanted to kind of start off with, what inspired each of you all to kind of, not only teach, right, and lead, but to be in this space?
Yeah, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll be happy to start. I come from a family of teachers, so I thought I was going to teach high school, and I did for 1 year, and then decided not want to teach high school anymore. So went into the corporate world. My background is in human resources, but got into the corporate world for quite a few years, and then really missed the classroom. I love being with students. They bring so much energy. They keep you young. So that was just a big inspiration for me to be back with students and making an impact there.
Great.
Yeah, so I spent the majority of the first part of my career in industry. Got to the point where really looking at what do I want to do next. And I'll actually give my wife credit. She, one night after talking about what I might want to do next, she said, "You should teach," which I immediately said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. But she knew me better than I knew me, because she basically said, what you love to do when you come home and you've had a great day, it's when you've helped somebody go from where they are to where they want to go. She said, that's what teaching does. And I never really thought about it, but it put a seed in my mind to say, that might be something I want to look at. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, it's the best decision that I've made. I love what I do.
And Bart's a great teacher.
Yeah, well, for those unfamiliar with Lipscomb University, maybe let's give the guest a quick overview of just what all you all do there and just a little bit about the program.
So we have a traditional College of Business. We have undergraduate programs. We have majors in management, marketing, entrepreneurship, data analytics, data science, finance, and accounting. And then on the graduate side, we offer an MBA program both online and in person. We have a special MBA program that I don't know of any other school in the country that does this, but we have students come to an MBA program in 1 year, but we get them a job. So we have them interview with companies. We place them at a company for 11 months, so they get the work experience along with the MBA all in 11 months. We also have our Master of Health Administration program and a Master of Accountancy program. And we also have some certificates in analytics as well.
Great.
Well, that's one of the things that I was impressed when I met all the students, and I guess there were maybe 12 or 13 students that day, but just the diversity, not only in age and experience, but I met a young veteran that I was really impressed that he was using his GI Bill benefits to come back and work on his MHA. But I would imagine that to be able to draw from that diversity in young and old, like it's got to be a great cohort you guys put together there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and obviously that we try to mirror what they'll see in the workforce, and we're often able to do exactly that. It's important to us to have that diverse group of individuals within each cohort, and so far we've been really successful in putting together, that group of individuals.
And talk about, so the gentleman that was there leading the class when I was there was Craig Cordola,
Yeah.
the CEO of Fresenius.
That's right.
So how do you guys attract people of that caliber to come in and spend some of their time? I mean, you must be paying an exorbitant amount.
We
right?
are.
Yes, incredible amount. He is in fact becoming incredibly wealthy
Yes.
from teaching. No, I mean honestly, it's been that way from the start. When we first developed the program, and that's actually how I got recruited to Lipscomb after I finished my PhD. I got my PhD at UAB and wound up back at Lipscomb, which was my undergraduate, where I got my undergraduate degree. So it was kind of a full circle for me. But when I came on at Lipscomb, one of the things that I was asked to do was to build the healthcare program. And it's a long story on how we got there. We started from really nothing, and we created what was called the Masters of Management in Healthcare, which was really a proof of concept because we did it with very little additional resources, which proved there was a market in the healthcare space. That then we went back and said, okay, let's do the MHA. And from the very get-go, we wanted it to be a program that was developed by practitioners for practitioners. Of course, we talk about academic theory, but it's really important for us to have the students to have exposure to and experience with actual practitioners. Craig is just one of many. I mean, he's amazing. CEO of Fresenius. He was the COO of Ascension before. So he has obviously an incredible level of very high-level experience. But if you went down through our executive advisory board, you have a lot of other people who were involved at the very beginning that helped us literally craft the program and the curriculum and how it all lays out. Again, with that whole idea of making it a program that really is designed by practitioners for practitioners.
I would imagine that when your students are going to interview, for their first position maybe, or that opportunity to promote, like to be able to have worked with a program that this is what they want, this is what the businesses want to see. And I mean, in Music City, like we always think about Nashville as Music City, but I mean, it is the Silicon Valley of healthcare. And so you guys are really positioned in a great space.
Absolutely. That's one of the ideas around an MHA. At the time, there was no other MHA in Nashville, which to me was a crime. Here we are in the healthcare center of the United States. More beds are managed out of Nashville than any other city, and we didn't have an MHA program. And so that was a part of the idea as well, is that it really is a need that we need to fill to help fill the pipeline for leaders within the healthcare space.
Yeah, most of the listeners of the show are going to come from the healthcare space or even programs, and it could be all across the country. And so I guess it'd be interesting to hear, like, maybe some of the positions that maybe you're training the next generation for. Where are they going? What types of roles are they taking on coming right out of college?
I'll let Bart answer this.
Yeah. So historically, our program has been really designed for early careerists, and so we often get individuals that maybe weren't in healthcare before and want to get in healthcare, and then we also have some that are coming from healthcare at maybe a more entry-level position that want to get to that next role, whether it's manager, director, or above. And we've actually had others that have come in at a higher level as well, but for the most part, it's early careerist. And then as far as, the type of jobs and the type of industries, historically, it's been pretty acute care focused. So we have a fair number of people that go into the acute care space, and obviously there's a lot of players here in town. I mean, I came from HCA. HCA is certainly a company we like to place students in. CHS, Ardent, LifePoint, pick your acute care. But, as we've evolved, there's a lot of other healthcare opportunities in Nashville. And so everything from, you said Silicon Valley of healthcare, startups, there's a huge startup ecosystem. In fact, we'll most likely take our students at our next, what we call integration weekend, to the Nashville Entrepreneurship Center and learn about what's going on in the innovation space within healthcare. So whether it be that acute care type of role or a startup or, many of the other types of businesses that we have as well, whether it is ambulatory or behavioral health or any other segment of the industry, that's the type of companies that they're going to. And as far as roles go, I mean, it's that next level, whatever it is, with that manager of this or the director of that.
I can imagine, because I've got sons that are college age, and I feel like you guys, because of the way you kind of set up and some of the professionals that you work with in your program, would provide really good advice to younger people that are trying to figure out, well, do I go get an MBA? Do I go get like an MHA? Like, can a prospective student reach out to your program and then kind of like pick your brain as to what track that they should apply for?
Absolutely. I mean, we have any number of our faculty are happy to meet with people just to give advice and even connect them to business professionals. We really try to work on the front end with prospective students to say, what program is best for you? Because I think a lot of people do have that question. Do I get an MBA? Do I get an MHA? So we always talk through that with our prospective students, but then are happy to connect them with business professionals that we're connected to as well.
I'm sorry, Mark. I'm going to ask 2 in a row, Mark.
I'm chomping at the bit right now.
Well, Matthew and Craig will let us know if I operate out of bounds, right, guys? When you are trying to figure out, what track that they want to take, are you finding that in Nashville, like if you're trying to make it into the C-suite, is there one program or one track that you think is better than another? And pursuing that second level, that master's, is it critical for somebody who's wanting to break in and be that CIO, that CMO, that COO?
You want to start?
No, you go ahead and then I can augment.
So I think that there's not a right answer. I think it really depends on where the person wants to go. My philosophy is that Nashville has traditionally been an MBA town. That's what most of our programs have been, if you look at all the different universities in our local area. But that specialized degree has become more prevalent, especially as the economy of Nashville's changed, the market of Nashville's changed. And so I think part of it depends on if you really want to be in that focus area and become the expert in something like healthcare, or do you want a more generalized degree like an MBA? The interesting thing about our MHA program, because it was developed by practitioners, is that you take a healthcare finance class, you take a healthcare marketing class, you take a healthcare analytics class, and so you're getting all those same concepts and principles and information that you would get in an MBA program, but with a healthcare focus. So I think an MHA is a great way to combine those two skill sets and get all the MBA content knowledge combined with that healthcare as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much shortage in the healthcare space for nurses to clinicians to even in the leadership roles. I guess, what is Lipscomb doing today to address that, to go out and find the people that want to come back and get their MBA? And
Bart mentioned earlier the different types of students that come to our program. We actually have a good number of clinicians who have said, I'm ready for that next level, or somebody who's been thrown into a nurse manager role and they're suddenly realizing, I was great on the clinical side, but now I have to manage people. How do you motivate people? How do you compensate people? How do you deal with conflict? How do you give feedback? All the different things. But then also, how do you look at something from a strategic perspective, because you're looking at things through a different lens. So that's part of the way that, or part of the reason in our MHA program, we cover all those different concepts so that that person not only has the healthcare knowledge, but they also know how to manage people. So we're working really closely with our students, whether they're from a clinical background or they've been more on the corporate side, to make sure that they have both skill sets.
How long is the MHA program?
It's about 18 months.
18 months. And I was speaking to a group on a Saturday. Is that traditionally the calendar? Is that you guys they meet once a month on a Saturday, or?
Yeah, historically, basically they have a class where they meet online for a week, and they have that on-site residency, which is what you were a part of, and it's Friday evening all day Saturday, and then they have 4 weeks after the on-site session. So it really we try to create flexibility to where, hey, you really only have to carve out a couple of weekends in your year in order to be able to take this program. And again, to Allison's point, we get a lot of individuals from different types of roles, clinical included, and they have a lot of very odd schedules. They're not 8 to 5. Most of them work in a clinical setting, which is 24/7. So we try to make it as flexible as possible. So you have the one on-site weekend, but then the rest of it is online to where they can complete the program more kind of based on their own schedule.
Yeah, Bart, when you and I were first meeting, I'd worked at specialty care, and I think y'all have done a lot of work with specialty care. But yeah, that's a tough one in that business because, if you're a perfusionist, you may be on call. It's difficult to carve out exactly what your schedule might be.
That's right.
So that's great that there's a little bit of that flexibility kind of going in. It probably makes it much more accessible.
Again, we did that from the very beginning very purposefully. We knew that some of the people that we would attract are the clinicians, which quite honestly I love when we attract clinicians because I believe a clinician that also has the business acumen really has a superpower because they understand not only the clinical piece and the patient side piece, but they understand the business side as well, which really makes them incredibly valuable when it comes to that next role, again, whether it be manager or director or see something.
Allison, you mentioned a few things just a minute ago about other skills that you train beyond just the technical stuff. And I guess what are the common mindset or skills that you're seeing today that make people successful in leadership and maybe geared specifically towards behavioral health? And then how do you guys cultivate that?
Yeah. So a couple of things I think are really important for leaders today. We have 5 values and virtues that we really look at in terms of the College of Business that we want to integrate into all of our courses. One of those is creative. And so I think part of it is that creative problem solving. So it's looking at the problem, and I also will throw in there the strategic mindset about that. So how do we make a strategic difference? How do we take a problem and look at it a little more creatively to solve that and from a very strategic perspective? So we have a healthcare strategy class that Bart teaches, and I think Craig has taught that as well.
Yep.
And so you have people who have been in the industry and seen everything from a very high level in an organization. So that's part of how we want to make sure that we're teaching our students is to say, hey, this is somebody who's actually dealt with this problem. It's not just somebody teaching out of a textbook. It's somebody who said, here's a legitimate problem in a healthcare organization, and here's how we solved it and what the process was. So they're learning from experts in the field. So I think that's a really important thing. My background is human resources, so I always think about things from a human perspective. And one of the classes that we have is a Coaching for Managers course, and that teaches people how to interact with employees, how to have those coaching conversations, the difficult conversations, but also those conversations about where do you want to go and how do you get there and what do you need to do. So we're looking at from definitely that strategic problem solving and creative problem solving, but also how do you motivate people and make sure that people are meeting their objectives and accomplishing their own goals as well.
Allison, when you said that, there are 17,000 treatment centers in America. I mean, it's an unbelievable space, and that a lot of opportunity for the kind of work that I do. But it also shows a lot of our behavioral health treatment. They're small mom and pops, maybe mid-size. And one of the things when you were talking about HR that hit a nerve with me was, I've had clients where when I go in and we determine that we've got an opportunity for performance improvement, and I'll have a conversation like, okay, well, let's go ahead and document a PIP for them. And they'll be like, what is that? And is there a form? I'm always like, wow, okay, I kind of thought it was kind of, working in larger companies, And so I could, that's where I think the kind of program y'all run, it's so helpful for the individual who may go to work for a smaller company that's not going to have that luxury of all these kind of processes and procedures.
And they may not have an HR person at the top to coach them through that. So they need to have that skill set going into the role.
I really love the critical problem solving, the strategic that you guys add into that, because I do think in this day and age it is a skill that a lot of people need in various industries, but that critical thinking and the strategy that goes around it, I guess, when you're working with all these companies outside of Lipscomb, are there strategic alliances, strategic partnerships that maybe you all incorporate in beyond just having, a senior executive that comes in and teaches classes? Are there partnerships that you have out there that you go, boy, this really helps accelerate our students?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing I would mention is that we do, as I said, we have what's called an integration weekend, which is once a semester, and it was, again, designed from the very get-go. And it has a couple of different objectives, one of which is to really connect all the content. And that's not directly to your question, but One thing I learned when I was in, particularly my last role at HCA in senior leadership, was that senior leaders connect the dots better than anybody else. It's really one of their superpowers, is to be able to see things more systematically as opposed in silos, and know that if I pull this lever, it's going to do this, on the upstream and downstream, et cetera. So that was a big piece of that integration weekend, was take all the content we've talked about today and then start to bring all that together and say, okay, how does this content around finance relate to HR? How does that relate to strategy? How does that relate to operations? How does that relate to all the different components within the organization? The second piece, and this is really getting back to your question, is we wanted them to go out and see, touch, feel healthcare out in the field. And so we work with organizations across, again, various segments of the industry to go. We take Friday and we go and visit these organizations. We talk to leadership. We learn about that organization. In fact, in the upcoming one, we'll also focus on behavioral health, and we've got a partner that we plan to go and visit and learn more about that space, because a lot of times these students have not been exposed to these other segments of the industry, and so it really broadens their horizon and broadens their mind as far as, okay, what's possible and where might I want to go, and hey, I never really thought about behavioral health before, but I really like that because they've had that exposure and that experience. And that's really where, having these partners really helps, because it allows us to go and experience healthcare in a lot of different dimensions that really broadens the experience for the student at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you find that your master's level students, are there internship opportunities at that level?
Yeah. In fact, just last week, talking to a behavioral health organization who wants to bring on one of our students this summer, along with another program that I won't mention, but another very reputable program that they want to bring somebody on as well. And so we're real excited about that. And that's just one example. We have I send out information on internships almost weekly for people. Now, again, a lot of our students already have a job, but then there's others that, this is an opportunity that they want to take.
And do you find that there are companies that will invest and pay for this master's level or some kind of reimbursement, or do you find that students are needing to either use their personal or like a GI Bill for veterans?
I mean, the GI Bill is a huge benefit for those students, and I think it's great when they're able to take advantage of that. Most companies still reimburse $52.50 a year, and so we do find that a lot of larger companies.
Now, is that $5,000, or you're saying $52?
$5,250.
$52.
Better. Yeah. See, that makes it sound so much better.
I was helping my in-laws out recently, and I was online, and I ended up saving them $2,400 because we got on. We were able to close out some of the stuff that they didn't subscribe to, and this and that. And I said, I saved you $2,400, and somebody that heard me say that said, no, you need to say 2,000. Like they need to. 2,400 doesn't sound big, so it's
$5,250.
And that's typically per calendar year.
Per calendar year. So the way the program works, you could get 2 calendar years of that. So I find that larger companies are able to do that. Some of your smaller companies just aren't able to do that. So students do.
But it is interesting. It's a $10,000. I mean, I don't know. What an investment, though, because you got to say, I'm probably in the lifetime of working, I'm probably going to make that back in a lot more.
100%.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah, I mean, just staying on this track. I mean, companies are going to invest in this, individuals are going to invest in this, and I guess there's talk out there of how is it worth it, and I'm sure you guys hear this all the time, and I guess what for like companies and individuals could they do to maximize the value they have out of these programs to make it never ask, is it worth it?
Yeah. I think from a company perspective, it's making sure that your student not only does the program, but then comes back and shares what they're learning in class. Because I remember when I did my graduate program, I was still working in corporate America, and everything I did in class, I connected it to something that I did at work the next week. And so having those conversations let's talk about what you did in class and how does that help us become better. So I think that connection point back to how do we make the company better based on what you're doing in class is really important. we have all kinds of data that shows, the lifetime earnings are significantly higher with that graduate degree. You generally will see some type of bump shortly after graduation. That's not always true. It depends on the industry and where you are in your job. But we do see that advanced salaries as you get that graduate degree as well. You may have something to add to that.
Yeah, I think that's, as far as the corporation or the organization, I think that summarizes it really well. As far as the student, I mean, it's that you're going to get out what you put in. I always tell students, I'm going to come in here and try to be a 10 out of 10 every single class. But unless you're a 10 out of 10, in other words, you've prepared, you've read, you're ready to engage, you're not going to get a lot out of it, even if I am a 10 out of a 10. So, both we as, faculty need to come to the class ready to roll, and we do. Doesn't mean we're always a 10. There's nights where you might be an 8. But that's, the way kind of it happens. But for a student, it really is. They have to invest in it as well. If you're just coming to get, a check the box, then you're going to get a check the box.
Well, Allison, I can tell you that the day I was there, Bart and Craig were 10 out of 10.
Oh, I know.
I mean, they had everything was running on clock, and we started on time, ended on time, and they even brought in lunch. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
Lunch makes everything better.
I appreciate the kind words, but it is incredibly gratifying to see, the difference that the light bulbs go off, and then you might have seen that when you were talking to the students when they go,
Well, a lot of questions. I mean, we could have gone on for another 30 minutes. We had to kind of cut it.
That's right.
And I will say, when I got back, I think every one of your students had already messaged me on LinkedIn.
That's great.
And so that also shows, there's like,
That's
they've
good
got,
to hear.
Yeah,
Yes.
that they're interested.
We talked about before, is what our partners, employers are looking for, and we hear a lot too, the soft skills. A lot of, and we do talk about that a lot within, our program to make sure they're not only getting the IQ but getting the EQ, which to me is things like being able to reach out and to network and to build relationships with people, to be able to communicate well, to present yourself well, all these things that, you sometimes get overlooked. I don't like to call them soft skills because to me they are hard
They're
skills.
hard skills.
But that we hear that over and over, and we spend a fair amount of time focused on that type of thing.
Well, Mark, I haven't plugged my book in this episode, but I will tell you I do talk about that. You got to get out from behind your spreadsheet.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I tried to set you up, Lee.
Absolutely.
So that,
And that's one of the things that we really want in terms of getting people exposed to different companies and different people like Clee coming to participate in that program as well. We want our students to network. We know in Nashville, even though we have all this healthcare community, it's still a pretty tight-knit community, and you're, only a couple of degrees of separation from anybody else in healthcare. And so we want our students to have that network when they are in the program, start to build that and continue that as they move into their career.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking about networking, I mean, Lipscomb's amazing university. You guys have educated some incredible people out there that have done big things. And there's other great universities all across the nation. And I guess, we hear it from time to time of like, we're just not getting anybody from Lipscomb, right? And so are the programs that we work with, like what message would you give? How could they get more connected? Because we always ask like, well, what have you done? Like, what have you done to reach out? What have you done to, be a part of it? What do you see as like the most effective where you all are thinking about this program more than maybe another?
Yeah. So you're talking about getting people connected to Lipscomb. Yeah.
Like companies.
Companies, yeah. I mean, we have a person dedicated for our College of Business for our Career Connection office. So if you need interns, connecting with Suzanne Sager, who is an amazing asset in the College of Business, she works tirelessly. She said her job is to get our students their dream job. So if you need interns, if you need somebody just to come work on a short project, we have class projects people can work on, internships. You just need an entry-level employee. She makes sure that they are very well prepared for those interviews. We actually have a class that she teaches called Connect to a Successful Career. This is for undergrad, but then she does similar work with our graduate students as well to make sure that they have all the things that they need going into that interview process. So I think that's one direct connection is you need employees, you need interns connecting with us directly, and we will find you a qualified student for that.
And I would say too, I mean, just reaching out to the faculty, the area that you have interest in. I mean, like Lee, you obviously came and spoke to the students, which was much appreciated. And part of that connectivity that we want to have, we love to have people in from the industry to allow them to have the opportunity to meet our students to meet them and to learn more about what they do. And, you know, I've seen a lot of connectivity happen just through those interactions.
One thing I wanted to ask you, and Allison, you know, your husband is very well known in Nashville, you know, in the IT space. What does the MHA program? How does it approach like data security?
Yeah. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely have, you know, coverage around, I would say, IT and innovation as well. I mean, you know, today, AI, you can't, you know, have a sentence or two without AI coming up. So where is technology going? Where is innovation going? How is that going to impact healthcare? I know when I taught, for instance, the health systems class, that's a big piece of what we focused on is not only understanding our healthcare system, which some would argue isn't a healthcare system, it's more a healthcare, you know, conglomerate of a bunch of different assets out there that aren't really system. But anyway, that's beside the
That's
point.
going to be another episode. I thought, ooh, there's something here, Mark.
But regardless of...
We only have 45 minutes, Bart.
Yeah, sorry. No, but again, thinking about, okay, obviously we understand now how healthcare is today. Where is it going? And how can we be a change agent, particularly around the use of innovation and technology and improving healthcare? Because, you know, I don't think it takes very long to figure out that we have a lot of room for opportunity still. But we're also a nation, quite honestly, a city that's incredibly focused on innovation and figuring out how to do things better, cheaper, faster. And so that is something we look at a lot within our program as a whole, is making sure that we have that type of mindset as well.
Yeah, Bart, that's great. What you know, this industry is moving very quickly. It evolves very rapidly, and just staying up with like the current technologies and the trends, like, you know, how do you like work that into the curriculum at Lipscomb?
Yeah, how do you know what's important and not
Yeah.
a fad?
Yeah.
It's difficult. It really is. I mean, AI, again, you know, if you talk about AI, there's plenty of people who say, hey, there's a lot of hype there, there's a lot of fad, you know, potentially. I tend to believe there's a fair amount of reality there too, just from the, you know, work that I do, maybe consulting or talking to other business leaders, et cetera. But one is having faculty, again, that is, whether they're full-time faculty, you know, like for myself, I put it on myself to make sure I'm staying up with things. In fact, this morning on the way into work, I was listening to McKinsey podcast. It's called On the Edge, I think it is. And it is talking about, you know, technology within the healthcare space, and it has individuals that lead organizations that are utilizing technology. So keeping myself connected, again, consulting, you know, is something that many of the faculty do that keeps us connected. And then bringing in people like Craig Cordola, who they're doing it. You know, in fact, you know, I know he's working right now on several initiatives.
Yeah, it's not theory with him. Like
it
he's like,
it is not theory at all. And again,
Yeah.
he's just one of many. We have another individual that leads a health system up in Kentucky that teaches for our program. We have various individuals, another one from senior living that's teaching a class in our program. Those individuals, to your point, it's not theory, it's practice. They're doing it each and every day, and they're living it. They're seeing it. They're having the vendors come in to pitch them things. They're seeing the issues that they're having to try to solve with less resources, which they often do through innovation and technology. So our students get a lot of exposure to that.
You know, just going down this path with AI, you mentioned it. I
sorry.
spoke at another university not too long ago, and it was myself and another creative director of an agency here in town, and we were talking about AI in the creative space and how, you know, the students should be thinking about it. And, you know, we got to the end of it, and the advice that we gave was you need to learn all these tools, like, because, like, literally we would not hire a person today that has not, like, experimented with a variety of different AI tools in the space. Now, it's different than healthcare, it's marketing, but I guess, like, you know, I think it was shocking to the university because I think up to that point, maybe the speak was, hey, we're going to stay, you know, away from this a little more than like leaning into it. But when they heard, we probably wouldn't hire a person that isn't. Like, where do you all like stand on that?
So Lipscomb made a pretty significant investment over the summer to have every faculty and every student have access to a technology called Boodlebox. It gives you access to 9 different AI tools. Wow. So every single person on campus has had training on this. Faculty are using it. I mean, people are writing bots to help students study for class. Students are able to use it for their projects. So some people are coming up with some really creative ways to use it for class, but then on projects that they're working on for class that mimic real-world things as well. In the College of Business, we are still waiting for our NVIDIA supercomputers. We're on the wait list, and hopefully they'll be out in the next month or so that we can start actually building out some of those models and testing, doing some challenges between different models. So the university has made a very intentional investment to make sure that all of our students and faculty are as up-to-date as possible. And I don't think we've had a faculty meeting this year that there's not been some type of AI training on how to implement that and make sure our students are prepared adequately.
Yeah, I would just add that I think it's absolutely a necessity that we embrace AI and that we teach students how to use AI. And it'd be like me. I was an accounting major, right? CPA, and it'd be like trying to teach accounting today using, the however many columns there were. I can't remember pen and paper or pencil and paper, right? That'd be crazy. No, we use Excel. We use these other tools. To me, AI is right there in that same vein. Our students are going to go out there and they're going to be competing with other individuals within their organizations, and they have to have the skills to stay up and above everybody else within that organization. And that organization is competing with other organizations. They're going to have people that either know how to use AI or don't. And the ones that don't know how to use AI are going to get left behind because it just gives you such a superpower, if you will.
Well, Mark was just at a conference in Palm Beach last week, and there's already AI tools moving into the behavioral health space where they'll actually take your initial phone call, and a lot of people are a little nervous about it, but it's almost like when we first introduced phone trees. Right. Press 1, press 2. They're not going to do everything, but maybe they'll allow you to not miss a phone call now,
right. Yeah.
And maybe it's going to help you get to the person that can actually do the assessment physically. And then there's another company that I've been working with out of Santa Barbara that's creating these AI avatars, and it's designed to actually help the conversion process. It's not taking away anything. It's just that some people, they don't want to do the online tool. They would rather actually interact. And it's not everybody, but there is a certain percentage. And so I think you have to embrace these things, that it might actually benefit certain subset of our population that do want to interact.
Well, I would argue, too, from an organizational perspective, it allows you to offload some of the maybe less valuable work that then people can then be reallocated to provide the more valuable work that really does need that human touch. I think it's a huge opportunity for a lot of organizations.
Well, Jeff Skillen and I, Mark, were on an episode a couple weeks ago, and we were talking a little bit about AI. And there are some people that in our space that are already using the AI bot to listen in for group notes, and people are like, "Well, oh my goodness, how can we be doing this?" And I'm like, you do remember, Jeff and I, we were reminded, like 10 or 15 years ago, doctors and therapists were using something called Dragon Speak.
Yep.
Like, it's always been around. It's just now that you call it AI, people freak out. But no, it's actually a tool that's going to help the clinician actually do the important work.
Yes.
And obviously in healthcare space, I mean, certainly in the clinical setting, you have some risks that you need to take into consideration. There might be a slower adoption. But even if you take, outside the clinical space, there's so many opportunities in the back office and things like that where, there's not risk to the patient to where you can actually utilize AI and increase productivity pretty dramatically.
And we do want to confirm for our listeners and viewers that Bart is not an AI avatar. He is a real person here today with us.
I am real. Although I've seen a couple lately that it's hard to discern, which is a whole nother topic as far as what's real versus what's not.
Yeah. Well, you gave the same speak. It's interesting because you're in the university setting, but that we say here, even to our team, is that AI has the opportunity to make you superhuman. And in the healthcare space, I mean, it's how do we provide higher levels of care, and empathy by not, by eliminating a lot of the busy work and minutia that they spend so much time in.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, doctors complain they only get like 5 or 6
Right.
minutes with a patient.
That's right.
Maybe some of this technology will allow them to be able to spend 15 or 20 minutes because they don't have to go back and spend all this time hand documenting or hand typing in.
Well, even eye
Absolutely.
contact within the exam room. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
big thing that a lot of clinicians complain about is that,
Yeah.
and patients, quite honestly, is, hey, I'm looking at my computer screen instead of talking to you, Lee.
Yeah.
Now with, some of the technology that's there with the ambient
Yeah.
AI and such, you're able to have the conversation
Right,
and not
right.
worry about the logistics and the nuance of what's
Right.
going on over here, which
Yeah.
provides a better patient experience and a better experience for the clinician.
That's a
too.
great point.
Most clinicians I know want to just practice medicine, which I don't blame them. That's what they, why they got into the business.
when these students go out and they take on these leadership roles in healthcare, like what are some of the common challenges? I'm sure they come back and they say, "Hey, it's going great, but here's what I am facing." Like, what are some of the common challenges you guys hear, and then maybe what do you do with it back in the program to better set them up?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. Actually, we just had a panel. Suzanne had a panel the other day on healthcare, and we invited back several of our students, several which I'd had in the classroom, and it was very, very gratifying to hear them talk about a lot of the things that we had actually talked about in class, and actually living it. It's a lot of things you would imagine. It's working with people. How do I lead? How do I do that effectively? How do I manage conflict? How do I manage change? It's resource allocation. I've got infinite needs and finite resources. How do I allocate this? And where are the trade-offs, and how do I manage through those trade-offs? That's typically some of the things that we'll see. You probably have others that you've seen.
I mean, I think it generally goes back to managing people and managing change and
Yeah.
and definitely the resource allocation. So I would agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as we start to wrap up, I guess, is there any advice that you'd give out there to programs that are looking to partner, or maybe even clinicians that may want to level up and they want to come back and get their MBA so they could move up in the organization? Like, what's some advice you might give?
Yeah, I would say definitely could just continually learn. Whether it's a program or not. Today's world, we can't be stagnant. Nobody can. I can't. You can't. No one can. And so whether you do that kind of on your own, or whether you decide to do a program like an MHA or an MBA, I would say you got to continue to learn. And then I would say that, hey, getting your MBA or MHA definitely helps you move in the right direction. It helps you learn how to learn again. It helps you understand the world around you. It helps you understand the challenges that you're going to face. Some organizations, still require a master's degree to get above a certain level. So it certainly potentially removes a hurdle. So I'd say, start looking at those programs. And then we talked about MBA versus MHA. My litmus test on that is, as far as MBA versus MHA, is, are you sure you want to be in healthcare? If somebody says, yeah, I love healthcare, I want to be in healthcare, I'd say, yeah, MHA is what you want, because everything we talk about in this program is going to be healthcare specific. All the different disciplines that you would get in the MBA, but healthcare specific. And we in healthcare like to say that we're special and that we're different, and it's true. There's a lot of things, healthcare finance is very different from typical finance because of the fact we have third-party payers and a lot of other reasons. So that would be, what I would say is, once you get down to saying, hey, I want to get a master's degree, is, am I sure I want to be healthcare? If yes, then MHA. If not, I might want to do healthcare. I might want to do this other industry. MBA is a fantastic choice as well.
And I would echo everything that Bart just shared. I think the other piece is keeping your network active and current. And frankly, a program helps you build that network because you have other students in the program. We constantly have other students who have a job opening, and they're going to contact somebody who is in their cohort with them. And so making that connection, and all the connections, just with the exposure to different companies and different professionals in the industry. And I love when students, Bart mentioned something I thought was interesting, it gets you back into that learning mode. It's funny that people start sending us articles because you don't necessarily sit in that mindset all the time of, maybe you listen to some podcasts, maybe you read Wall Street Journal, but you're not going back and looking at some of the academic things, which there's some value in the academic parts because there's research that backs up all of that. It's not just what somebody thinks is the right answer. It's actually demonstrated through research. And so they're coming back and they're like, hey, I just read this great article about, whatever it is, because then they're thinking about things a little bit differently. So I think a big piece of a graduate program is shifting that mindset to think bigger, to think more creatively. And so I think doing that wherever you are, whether you do a program formally or not.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I would just augment that too. I mean, if you do choose to do an MHA, I would do it in what's considered the healthcare capital of the United
Yes.
States, which happens to be Nashville.
Yes.
And there's only one MHA in Nashville,
Yes.
so the choice is obvious there
Excellent.
too.
What is the Silicon Valley of healthcare? And our listeners are, again, all across the country, but, Nashville is a special place when it comes to networking. It really seems as though what I've experienced is, people are willing to help, and when you reach out and you make the effort to reach out, and I'm sure this is what you tell your students, that, people will not only connect with you, but they'll also introduce you to others out there that you ought to know.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I mean, that's one thing we tell our students all the time is, I don't know what it is, but when you're a student, I call it the golden ticket.
Yeah.
You can call just about anybody in Nashville, and in any industry, especially in healthcare though, and they'll meet with you. I tell them they'll probably, take you to coffee or maybe even buy you lunch just by the fact you're a student. So take advantage. That's another reason why you might want to do a master's, is that you're able to take advantage of that student status and have the golden ticket for a while to build that network and those relationships.
Was there anything that we maybe forgot to ask or maybe that we didn't ask that you think might help out the listeners?
I think, just one thing that just popped in my mind is I do a lot of student interviews for people coming in, as potentially the MHA program, sometimes the MBA program too, depending on what's going on. But I think a lot of people have a hesitancy because they're just like, I don't know if I can do it. And I will emphatically say, if you have the mindset that you want to learn and you want to proceed in your career, you want to continue to better yourself, you can do it. And so I would just encourage people to take that next step.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you both for being a part of the show. Allison, Bart, it was great having you on, great sharing. I really, I enjoyed hearing how, these treatment centers could get more engaged in the programs and be that feeder source for bringing in high-quality talent that you all are producing, and how dedicated you are to really producing that next level of leadership in these organizations in healthcare. And so thanks for all you do. Thanks for being a part of the show today. Thanks for being a part of MasterMined. And, we're going to drop all of their information in the show notes. So if you have any questions, for them afterwards, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you all for being a part of joining us today and listening in. If this episode sparks something in you, please subscribe, rate, review our show so that we can get out there to more people in the industry and help, which is what we really started this for. So thank you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
That wraps up this episode of MasterMined. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, MasterMined is not just a podcast, it's a community. So don't forget to comment, subscribe, and review us. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content that's relevant and relatable. Thanks again to our sponsor, Snapshot, a digital media marketing agency. And thank you for joining us on MasterMined, your behavioral health playbook.